Well, hi. Let's make sure I have sound first before I do it. But every now and then I get chipmunk audio. Hello. Should have had this ready. Do we have audio?
Do we have audio?
We do have audio. Yay. Do we have any visitors yet? Yes, we have one. Hi. I'm just going to make some noise. It's raining and cold and wet, and I was hoping to go out on the avenue. There's big Black Friday thing. Where are they? Oh, you can't see them. Well, no, you can't. This chair's in the way. Sort of see it right there. There's two boards full of necklaces, and then the earrings hang on the top of the board. And then I take out and go and set up and play somewhere on the avenue. So I'm just gonna make some noise and string up some donuts. Take with me. Nah. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Well, anyway, I'm logged into Kiwi Farms right now. There was someone called themselves Sexy Senior Citizen or something that just came up with something that told me, okay, I'm gonna have to log in there. That's just too stupid. And this is an older person, so I'm gonna call this fuckhead out. So I might as well read that crap to you. Hello. Let's get back to my forum. Nobody's noticed. Oh, somebody did. Oh, and here's okay. So here's a fuckhead engaging. He said this isn't the one I want to deal with. We'll get to this later. This isn't the one I wanted to. Where's the other one? Shit. Yeah, there was fucking idiots. This was their commentary on my Thanksgiving last night's stream. There's Big Todd, also known as Lurker X at AMB, total fucking delusional, intellectually dishonest asshole, just stalking me and making like false comments. Probably went to a private event at the soup kitchen that feeds the homeless on Turkey Day. And he was just grabbing the preview. Don't bother logging in at 8:30 p.m. Tom never starts on time. We'll probably have a chipmunk audio and may not even show up. It was about 8:31, I think. Certainly it was by 7:33. Reported that it's live right now. Edit, he's reading something directly off the internet about the Indians in Squanto and the Pilgrims. I logged in long enough. This is Todd again. I logged in long enough to see he was reading the internet and then turned it off. Here's the one that set me off. Says, okay, well, I got nothing better to do this morning. Here's sexy senior citizen. Some strange cartoon, sexist cartoon, him soaping some woman, redhead's tits as a dirty old man. He's like, you know what, Tommy, you're right. The Europeans came, massacred the Indians, and stole their land. And you are a descendant of the murdering, thieving colonizers. Well, that's not true. You are living on stolen land. That's not even all that true where I'm living now. There seems to be some agreement between the colonists and the natives around here. Possessing objects, clothing, a computer, a house, etc., generated by a system of slavery, waste, and consumerism made possible by this colonization. Get rid of all your stuff, leave your Section 8 housing, and go back to Europe where you belong. Well, this isn't Section 8 housing. Make a real statement instead of bitching on the internet, or shut your mouth and enjoy the fucking turkey. Here's some idiot. Here's one. He thinks I'm gonna. I don't go do soup kitchens. So here's my response to these idiots. I've only logged in on the outside chance that you actually have spent 50 years or more living on this rock, and you're one of the demented deviants contributing to this site. The fact of the matter is that my family fled the same genocidal crap that was going on here and never even were aware of the reality of it until I met John Trudell in 1985. Since then, I've been very much involved in the struggle to end genocide everywhere and unplug the black snake-driven perpetual war machine. For your information, I don't ever go to public holiday feeds unless I'm going with a friend. I went to the Saga potluck and had a lovely time. Brought home plenty of leftovers, and I doubt I'll even look in any trash cans for a while. And to Todd's logging in long enough to see I was reading the internet, such intellectual dishonesty is to be expected from a sadomasochistic stalker with delusions of intellect and redeeming social worth. That wasn't just the internet I was reading. That was an opinion piece by legitimate Cherokee royalty and articles about the unthanksgiving ceremonies at Plymouth and Alcatraz, none of which is really characterized as bitching by anyone other than mentally conditioned white wage slaves afraid of the truth about their history. See if I've attracted any idiots yet. Well, we got more audience at this point. But really, I'm like kicking back. Oh, talk to me. I'll talk about anything. Ask me anything. Go ahead. Ask me anything. This is an Ask Me Anything day. I'm in the mood to take any kind of bullshit. Let's go back and look at that other thing. I'm going to multitask here. So my eyes are going to be on my lap some. Hello, now let's go back to this shit. This was the other reason that he's insisting. I'm gonna look. I'm live now. Okie doke. Before I get settled in here, I probably should go fill my water. Somebody wanted to see my feet. These are my booties. Nice hand knit booties, but I have no idea whose mommy made them. They came to me in the garbage, I suppose. I don't imagine anybody's noticed I lost about 15 pounds. Okay, so Here we go. So I guess Big Todd's in charge of grabbing my videos now, my streams. So the question I asked the other day is, when did you realize you were cisgender? And this is a very, this whole I don't want to try and imagine. Nobody's saying nothing. Oh, well, here's the phone, and let's give you a Discord server too. I had first thing this morning. I had some weird call from somebody on Google who was where's the Discord? There it is. Let's give them the link to this. And let's get this link to the Discord server. Bring that here. Okay, now let's see what the notification is in Kiwi. It's probably a douchebag jumping right back at me. So anyway, back to, oh, well, here it is. Yeah, I got a dump from somebody too lazy to read. That's right. We don't want to have that in my hands. We want to have this in my hands. What do I do with that? Hello? Huh. Oh. So anyway, Big Todd shared with Tom discusses the roach infestation, the bugs crawling over his keyboard while he's pounding on it. No, I haven't been doing that lately. I've been leaning. I'm going to hose it down again. And every time I hose it, there's less of them. So here's someone calling himself Alex Krychek, a Russian bot. What a fucking dumb question. When did I realize that my birth gender and mentality were in alignment? I don't know. I have never really thought about it. I just went along being male my whole life and enjoying myself. Well, that's what most people do. Just never really come to any specific awareness of it. But with transgender people and people who are gender diverse, we're not necessarily like needing to get their genitals modified, just people that are not comfortable with the masculine way of life or the feminine way of life. This is an issue that comes up. It starts as, for me, it started before I was 4 years old. Well, it's a real issue. I mean, sure, there's more stereotypically feminine activities. I like cooking, though I'm not into sweets or baking anything other than meat pies, really. And in antiquity, brewing was a feminine trade. However, that doesn't define anyone as a male or female. Your biological sex does. No, it doesn't. Well, maybe male or female. All your biological sex defines is what kind of gamete you make. That's all it does. If you want to present and be treated as the opposite sex and otherwise keep to yourself, I don't care. But I don't go acting like those are perfectly normal urges and decisions everyone deals with. I'm not doing that. What I'm insisting is you need to either respect people's identities or stay the fuck out of their lives, is what I'm saying. You got only two choices. Three. You can embrace it as a person welcome in your life. You can reject them politely, or you can reject them then be ugly. That's all totally up to you. But we're real, and you got to get used to it. Oh, here's douchebag. And here, this is typical of the kind of thing that they dwell on because they're just totally unaware. Here's Big Todd. I'm really intrigued with what Tom thinks is the answer to the question. He thinks we would say something like as early as I can remember, or when I was born, or something. The reality is that only druids like him think that one can feel their gender based on sexist concept of male and female activity. See, this is not what's going on. I had to suppress innate feminine behavior to pass. Totally suppress the way I walked, the way I talked, the way I moved, the way I posed. Had nothing to do with what I played with, what I wore, or the length of my hair. It was about my behavior. It was about the way that my brain wanted my body to act. So fuck off with that shit. There's nothing gendered about toys. There's nothing gendered about hair length. There's nothing gendered about clothing. It's all about behavior. It's all about what's in your heart. It's not your parts. It's not how you dress yourself. Oh, here's someone responding to Big Todd. I mean, yes, exactly. Unlike Troons, normal people never think about something like, oh, I feel like a manly man today. I should do men stuff to be more masculine. Or I feel feminine, and that's great. And having cute dress will make me feel more like a woman. Well, again, this is your fetishes talking. Your only exposure to transgender people are these exhibitionists. And that's the smallest fraction. Normal women won't become FTM if she likes cars. Normal men won't become MTF if she likes to cook. They won't even think that there's something wrong with them, since we don't live in the past century when gender roles were more strict. This is probably real true, but still, it's more than how you clothe yourself. So here they're all getting off on normal and everything. So here was my response to their bullshit. Whenever anybody claims to be normal, they get hit with Aldous Huxley's statement: the real hopeless victims of mental illness are to be found among those who appear most normal. Many of them are normal because they're so well adjusted to our mode of existence, because their human voice has been silenced so early in their lives that they do not even struggle or suffer or develop symptoms as the neurotic does. They are normal not only in relation to a profoundly abnormal society. Their perfect adjustment to that abnormal society is a measure of their mental sickness. These millions of abnormally normal people living without a fuss in a society to which, if they were fully human beings, they would not be adjusted. And R.D. Lang says, R.D. Lang says, the condition of alienation of being asleep, of being unconscious, of being out of one's mind is a condition of the normal man. Society highly values normal man. It educates children to lose themselves and become absurd, thus to be normal. Normal men have killed perhaps 100 million of their fellow normal men in the past 50 years. That's probably about right between World War I and World War II. Then we have this unusual article from a technical journal. It was from the where's this from? This is a real unusual article. It's from Mental Health Family Medicine. Mental Health and Family Medicine Limited. Now, I don't know what, I should have checked this fucking, I thought this was a technical paper. It's coming from Rochester Center for Biomedical Ultrasound at the University of Rochester. So let's see what the hell this journal is about before I get too heavily invested in this, because it does deal with reincarnation. I guess they're legit. Well, I don't know. That looks like a legitimate journal. Yeah. It's Mental Health and Family Medicine. It's a journal. And this is an opinion article, okay? So it's based on some research, but it's an opinion. Genetic failures, mental disorders, and the reincarnation alternative. I haven't studied the whole thing yet. I just read the section on transgender. The abstract, there are serious behavioral challenges to science's understanding of life and its DNA basis. The general problem facing the DNA model, though, has been the inability to identify the genetic origins of many heritable characteristics, including those behind a number of mental difficulties. This unfolding combination of behavioral conundrums and genetic failures suggests science could be wrong about life, and with this the basis for our mental challenges. As an alternative vehicle for understanding these mysteries, this paper introduces some explanations from the common pre-modern reincarnation perspective. Special focus is placed on 3 mental health debilitating conditions: transgender orientations, autism, and schizophrenia. The reincarnation perspective and its potential will be considered for these 3 scenarios. Now, I didn't see the author anywhere explain what the soul is, but he just very matter-of-factly talks about the soul and its experience in this plane. And there is some research about how trauma can be passed from generation to generation. The experience of the Holocaust and genocides all over the world. It's passed down in the survivors' descendants for many generations. So here we go into the this is interesting. As this comes from, this comes from a number of articles, some of them technical and some not. But it's interesting because, I've been in the groups now for nearly 10 years. And I have read hundreds, if not thousands, of these accounts of their early childhood, transgender people's early childhoods. Some individuals strongly identify with the opposite gender And this identification can show up when they're very young. This is not a moral issue, but it can raise serious challenges for the affected individuals. In a number of ways, as human beings, we tend to groove into habits and routines. And some of these are gender-based. It can also be immediately frustrating situation for a transgender individual to have, and they're having to live with an undesired body type. The intellectual question here is what is responsible for these tendencies? One transgender study found that amongst the subset of transgender people that have undergone sex change surgery or transition, many knew that they had been born into the wrong gender from childhood. Such an explanation from the scientific perspective would seem to require some kind of DNA sequence which resulted in an individual whose brain was committed to identifying as the opposite gender. Well, this shit does happen. From an article in the New York Times magazine, a description of a 3-year-old included the following. He insisted on wearing gowns even after preschool dress-up time ended. He pretended to have long flowing hair and drew pictures of girls with elaborate gowns and flowing tresses. By age 4, he sometimes sobbed when he saw himself wearing pants in the mirror, wearing pants, saying he felt ugly. Such behaviors can present some difficulties for parents. I don't know how to be the father of a girl inside a boy's body, as one father put it. One 8-year-old self-assessment presented in Andrew Solomon's Far from the Tree contained, I'm a girl and I have a penis. Her parents thought I was a boy until I was 6. I dressed like a girl. I said, I'm a girl. They didn't understand for the longest time. That child's assessment went on to look ahead and state, when I'm a mommy, I'll adopt my babies, but I'll have boobies to feed them and I'll wear a bra, dresses, skirts, and high-heeled shoes. Do such behaviors really seem plausible in terms of evolution, and in particular as a function of DNA specifications? Solomon noted an incident following on a workshop in dealing with transgender youth. One anxious father approached the presenters with the question, what if he changes his mind? One of the presenters responded with, you just explained how he told you on the changing table at 2 that he was a girl, and that message hasn't changed in 13 years. Solomon went on to conclude that it took the presenters about 10 minutes to bring this man around to an acceptance he'd been unable to achieve for over a decade. One trans child told his parents at age 15 months, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. This child went on to request a Barbie doll at age 2. Another trans girl at age 2 had a favorite pastime of wearing her mom's red high heels, a towel on his head for hair, and anything he could drape as a sari. The difficulties facing trans kids include a significant risk of suicide attempts. Solomon pointed out that over half of the parents of trans people this is fucked up. That's not what it says. It says half of parents of trans people are rejected by their families. I mean, it meant half trans people. Even in families with some acceptance, it often comes from only one parent, as we see between the Dorgulus versus Younger divorce case that's going on in Dallas. That's going to end up in the federal courts before it's over. I think it's still in the county court. A Scientific American article, When Sex and Gender Collide, by Christina R. Olson, provided a more recent and science-framed overview of the trans phenomenon. In the article, Olson stated about trans kids that when predicting their identities in the future, trans girls see themselves becoming women, and trans boys feel that they will be men, just as other girls and boys do. Even when we present children with more indirect or implicit measures of gender identity, the measures that assess reaction times rather than children's more explicit words and actions, we have found that trans girls see themselves as girls and trans boys see themselves as boys, suggesting transgender identities are held at lower levels of conscious awareness. On gender-oriented behaviors, Olson wrote that the degree of their preferences for stereotypical clothes, as well as their tendency to prefer to befriend those of their self-identified gender, and the degree to which they see themselves as member of their gender group, is statistically indistinguishable from their peers' responses on the same measure throughout the childhood years. So there's when they're asked about it as children, they know, but apparently cisgender heterosexual children are never given pause to consider what's going on. It's just, okay, this is what I am, and it's cool. And nobody's really saying nothing, and it's too dusty in here. And I think I'm gonna I don't know. We'll wait. I'll keep stringing these guys up. See what else is it? What's in it? What's on the internet of any interest today? Oh well, Harvey Milk Day was 41 years ago. Harvey Milk was shot and killed in cold blood by Dan White. He's the civil rights leader. 1978, but that was November 27th. So that was a couple of days ago already. Okay, that's a group. We don't need to look. Let's look at the news feed. Huh. Well, that explains why they didn't go to the potluck yesterday. The Trujillos went for a car trip for Thanksgiving, just on the spur of the moment. Uh-oh. I don't know about that. I don't want to play that right now. 20 colleges most hostile to LGBT students. And Lizette is saying, well, duh. Some of the schools are like, no shit. I'll bet. Most of them are Christian. I bet there won't be many state schools. That's an Advocate article. Okay, number 20 on the list. Indiana University of Pennsylvania, the Crimson Hawks. University of Dallas, which is a private Catholic regional university. Wofford College, liberal arts college in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I think South Carolina, is probably the most overall xenophobic state in the Union. You're you're like white, Christian, heterosexual, and cisgender. You're not welcome in South Carolina. University of Wyoming. Oh, well, this is where Matthew Shepard was murdered. So I guess it's going to rank high forever. Montana Tech of the University of Montana. Wow. University of Arkansas Razorbacks. Lehigh University. Calvin College. Wake Forest. That's a surprise. It's the families. Wake Forest is in Winston-Salem, so they got a lot of like homosexuality is sinful people there. Wheaton College. Well, that's a Christian school. Okay, that's no big deal. I don't have any kids. I'm worried about going to school. Hi, Flackabelly. No, I don't. I think you need to disappear. As long as the question was asked, and I know they used a clip, I was like harassed one day into saying something that sounded like I thought that the age of consent should be lowered to 9, which isn't what I said at all. And when they cut it out of context, it definitely sounded like it. That's what I meant. No, it's not. I think the age of consent should be 16, and that on a case-by-case basis, precocious teens should be able to and the answer to your question, Lil Mar, and you're gone, is no. Yeah. No. I'm not here to talk about those things. That's just bullshit that people use to defame me. Then on a case-by-case basis, to be decided by a judge that precocious children can apply for, I guess, a card from the court saying they can do it. And it's, you know, in medicine, this is seen as young as 9. And in my life experience, I've seen numerous instances of girls as young as 11 getting pregnant. And the most important statistic here is that in the case of sexual abuse of a minor, most of them, the majority of sexual abuse of minors is committed by an adult that's trusted, a family member or an adult trusted by the family, like a clergyman or a coach or an uncle, cousin. My cousin was abused by a cousin of her mother's when she was like 4. But most of the sexual abuse of a minor that's committed by a man who's not known to the stranger, who's not known to the family, the majority of them are young men between 18 and 30 who either had no idea that they were dealing with a minor. And I've seen some very, convincing stories. There was one of a minor who had tattoos and a fake ID in a bar. How's this guy going to know the difference? And, it's in a state where it's illegal to get a tattoo without your parents' consent until you're 18. And you can't drink in a bar until you're 21. He thought he was with an adult. And this happens. And this is why the age of consent needs to be lowered. Why I think that people should be able to apply to the court for an earlier permission if they're promiscuous, to protect these people that don't know any better. That's all that's about. No, I didn't. Whatever you were told is not true. I have never had sex with a minor, period. Yeah, well, people say a lot of bullshit about me. That's not true. That's not true. The incident that people have been lying about, no, I don't. I avoid those people. The incident that I don't even want to go into it. Not in public, not today. I'd like to know in private. Do not have. Well, first of all, I have no interest in anything that woman is about, and if there's somebody named Rachella in her crowd, that person's an imposter. That's 4. What we got here? 9. Yep, 9. Hopefully that'll be at least $75. No, I wouldn't. And you got one more chance to ask a stupid question before you're disappearing. Hey, MS. I'm not being mean to you. You're asking all sorts of questions that you're lucky you've lasted this long, huh? Why would I want to have intercourse with Josh from Kiwi Farms? Yeah. Hopefully it'll quit raining by about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I did. It needs to scrub. It's all it's ground in grime. I swept and mopped in there. But there's spots that I need to get down on with a brush. I know. That's like I'm keeping it swept. And it just there's it it just like it's got spots that it didn't clean up. Well, anyway. Let's see what else is going on. I might just go take a nap. Why would I want to grab a beer with Elizabeth Warren? She drinks fucking cheap beer. I don't even like good beer that much. I don't think I want to read that. Oh boy. Oh, this was like really strange. Both sad and funny on a whole new level. The President of the United States of America just tweeted this image of his face, his head, photoshopped onto Sylvester Stallone's body from the movie Rocky. This is really strange. I mean, like, excuse me, but this guy's supposedly your president. Oh, that's scary. That's and what's really scary is he's probably going to get reelected at the rate the Democrats are squabbling. Now Obama's talking about like running Bernie out of the race. It's like, yo, folks, the majority of the people want Bernie. If the election was held tomorrow, and just like let anybody vote for whoever, Bernie would win. So what else is going on? I don't want to read that. I don't need to do that. Oh, I guess it was snowing up on Mount Lemon today. They closed the road. Who counts calories? I mean, how do you even count calories? You just weigh all your shit and a turkey challah. How nice. Well, here, this is interesting. Let's see what the GOP is saying behind closed doors about Twitler. Ex-GOP House member reveals what Republican lawmakers say about Donald Trump in private. Out against Trump. Former GOP lawmaker on Thursday spilled the beans on what his ex-colleagues in Congress are saying about Donald Trump in private. He acknowledged in an interview in CNN Newsroom that Republicans are in public standing with the president for the moment, despite the impeachment inquiry prompted by the Ukraine scandal. They are in a situation where they understand their base pressure, but the base has not yet bolted from the president, he explained. But there's no question, having spoken to many of them privately, they're absolutely disgusted and exhausted by the president's behavior. They resent being put in this position all the time. Many GOP lawmakers are currently wrestling with whether it was more important to win their next election or preserve their legacy for years to come, he claimed. The current consensus among political commentators is the Republican-controlled Senate will likely not vote to convict Trump if he is impeached by the Democratic-controlled House. Earlier in the interview, Dent said he would have certainly voted for the impeachment inquiry based on the facts as I understand them now and would probably support the impeachment of Trump. But he cautioned Democrats against moving forward until they had secured the testimony of key witnesses in the Ukraine scandal, such as Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and former National Security Advisor John Bolton. Well, he didn't say anything. What juicy shit did he really say? Let's see if this is here. Is this it?
With us now is former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent. Congressman, you've called this testimony, at least so far, against President Trump devastating and compelling. If you were still in the House of Representatives as a Republican, would you vote to impeach the president?
Well, Anna, first, I certainly would have voted for the impeachment inquiry. Based on the facts as I understand them now, I do think this rises to the level of impeachment. I would probably support it. That said, I don't think the Democrats should move forward on impeachment until they hear from some of these primary witnesses, like John Bolton and Mick Mulvaney and the Secretary of State himself. I think they need to close that loop. I don't think they should force this or rush this. By the same token, neither should the Senate Republicans force or rush a trial.
We haven't even heard Republicans expressing really concern over what came out of the past couple of weeks' hearings. Did you recognize your former Republican colleagues this past couple of weeks?
Well, I think my former colleagues are in a situation where they understand their base pressure. The base has not yet bolted from the president, and I think that's why they're standing with the president for the moment. But there's no question, having spoken to many of them privately, they are absolutely disgusted and exhausted by the president's behavior. They resent being put in this position all the time. I mean, just take, for example, when they remember how they tried to pivot from the Ukraine scandal a few weeks ago by pivoting to Doral, bringing the G7 there, moving from one corrupt act to another. I mean, those types of head exploding moments are just, I think, infuriating these members. And I think they like to step out, but they just can't because of their base at the moment.
But where's the courage?
Well, look, I think a lot of members have to take a hard look at this. They can be more concerned about their election or their legacies. And I would argue to many of them, your legacy is more important than the next election. And that's hard for a politician. You're a politician, you want to win, you're competitive, and you do what you must to win. And it's sometimes hard, to try to look at this in a historical context and thinking about, how you're going to be perceived, for years to come. So I think many of them are wrestling with this fact right now, this real challenge. And so there's still time. Give them a little time.
You've said the facts get worse for POTUS daily. The president's now putting distance between himself and Rudy Giuliani. What's your read there?
Well, clearly, the president, wants to throw Rudy Giuliani under the bus. That's what I'm seeing here. The fact that he said that, he didn't know what Rudy was doing over there in Ukraine. Well, of course,
Well, since nobody seems to be hanging out, I'm going to just cut this off. Happy day. Thanks for coming. Bye.